Beautiful world. Welcome back to Postgame with Simone. I'm your host, Simone Deloach. Thank you for being here. This is a platform in which we're talking with student athletes, retired student athletes, about their lived experience in their collegiate careers, no matter the sport, no matter the school, no matter the division. We're talking about it and hopefully educating those watching and helping to shed some light with that lived experience, as well as heal that particular time in our lives. So Jasmine Mcgee is our newest guest, and she talks about the transfer process. So she went to school at a JUCO college and transferred into the top university in Indiana University to play basketball for them. That journey wasn't met without its challenges, and I love how gracefully she speaks of them, because it's not always easy to go through difficult situations. But she's overcome them, she has managed through them, and she shares a little bit of how she did that, as well as talk about wanting to go overseas, wanting to play professionally, and what that looked like and how that changed for her. So without further ado, I want to thank you for being here, as well as welcome you. So to everyone, this is Postgame with Simone, and this conversation is with Ms. Jasmine Mcgee. Enjoy. Jasmine Mcgee, welcome to Postgame with Simone. Thank you so much for being here. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to be on your show.
Oh my gosh, let me tell you, catching up with you is like trying to find a road runner.
What?
Respectfully, like the cutest roadrunner ever. But I'm so glad that we finally get to be here, because I know this has been a few months in the making, just trying to build up what we wanted to talk about, what we wanted to bring to the table.
Yeah.
I love your journey. I love that I am a part of your story, but I would love for you to share a little bit about your athletic journey from, you can start with high school into college and how we ended up meeting. And then we'll get into some of the nitty gritty about what you're doing now. So
yeah, sure. Yeah, so I'm just grateful that you presented me with this opportunity first. So this is just a lovely moment we can have together just to share just some, details of my life. But starting in high school, let's see, I'll take it back to freshman year.
Wow.
Wasn't really all that great in basketball, I would say. But I loved the game, played all 4 years in high school. I wasn't really recruited coming out, and my grades weren't the best. So I ended up getting a scholarship to play at Vincennes for 2 years. And that was a lovely moment in life, just experiencing just the junior college level of playing basketball. Smaller school, but it was fun in my time there. Put in a lot of work because I did have aspirations of eventually going to the WNBA. So I put in a lot of work. I would say about the summer of my sophomore year. So going into my sophomore year, I just decided to just like buckle down, put in extra work, and eventually I was blessed with an opportunity to sign with IU. And coming into IU was quite different. Coming from to a big D1, Big Ten school, and just trying to adapt to all of the new players. I was new, I was a transfer, and then I was kind of lumped in with the freshman team as well with the transfers. But I had a lot of weight on my shoulders just coming in, being recruited. I think I was ranked at the time like number 2 in the nation. And so just had a lot of pressure on me. I was still young, I didn't really know. All I just wanted to do was play basketball, and that was it. So, and then during my 2 years at IU, I went through 2 coaches. Just adapting to one coaching style, and then the next coaching style was completely different.
Completely.
And then just, meeting up with new faces. You were one of them. I think we were roommates at one time. And had a lot of great experiences and not so great experiences at the same time. But nevertheless, it was a blessing to be able to play D1 for the remaining 2 years of my life. And that was pretty much my basketball career. I did have offers to play overseas, but I decided to go elsewhere in my journey with the Lord and to pursue, I would say, music, and now me being a worship leader.
Yes, a different route.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing. I love the fact that you so gracefully shared that piece, because like you said, there was a lot of great moments, but there were a lot of traumatizing moments. If I can use that word as eloquently as we can, I want to take it back to this reality of high school basketball.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think a lot of us student athletes, if we're not in like the top 3% performing in our high school, we kind of fall into this like unseen sort of scene, like just space.
Right.
And so the fact that you weren't highly recruited, I think, is a very real lived experience. That's actually my lived experience. It took my senior summer season. So, right, I'm done with high school. We're in summer ball. It took that summer for me to be recognized. So I went all 4 years of high school, right? Just not even really considering college basketball. I just was playing it because it was fun. It got real for me when that summer season happened. And thankfully they recognized me to a trip to Chicago. And so for you, what was some of the like important pieces for you as far as even finding a JUCO, even finding a school that would take you? What were some of the important pieces you needed to get from high school to college ball, regardless of where you were going?
Yeah, I think the most important thing for me was just having the desire to actually want to pursue basketball in the collegiate level and then further. So I think just having that desire really drove me to figure out what I actually wanted to do. And then being in contact. Well, actually, I didn't know anything about recruitment at the time. So people, I think my coaches were kind of, like, hey, do you want to pursue college basketball? And I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. Who's offering? Your grades aren't good enough. So, you'll probably have to go junior college first. So I think they worked really hard behind the scenes. And someone saw me in one of, I think it was our rival games. I think we were playing Highland High School or something like that. And I was recruited by, his name was Gary Dunn at the time. He's now passed, but he spoke to my coach at Vincennes and was like, hey, there's this really tall girl, she's athletic and I think she'd be a great fit for your team. And then I was like, sure. I mean, what kind of college is it? I didn't know anything about college ball. I'm like, oh, it's a big school. Oh, no, it's actually a small school. So I think it just took them kind of like breaking it down, what was all involved in, playing college ball, scholarships, whatever. And then just actually making that transition from high school to college, even in the nature of it being a junior college, was just different. It was a different scope. So
sounds like having somebody looking out for you was the biggest piece.
Right.
I recognize that my high school coach, and it's so crazy that this has kind of been a cycle of things that have happened. I had several high school coaches, just like I had several college coaches.
Wow.
And so my particular area of high school where I went to school, if you weren't a well-known coach at high school, your teams weren't always recognized as talented, which is kind of crazy because there's talent all over Texas. Like from point A to point B, there's talent all over the place. And if the coaches aren't willing to put in the work to put their student athletes out there, then your student athletes kind of go, but they don't get the recognition that oftentimes they need, or the exposure that they need. So to your point of you had somebody looking out for you who reached out to a school that said, hey, I know somebody who could benefit your program. And then relating that back to you, I think is so big. It's important.
Yeah, I would have to say that it was a very crucial moment in my life, because had it not been for Gary Donner doing that, I don't know if I would have really pursued basketball and the desire that I had to pursue it. So that was a blessing in disguise, to say the least.
Sure, for sure. Indiana native. Let's talk about that real quick. So you are a part of this culture there in the state of Indiana, because Indiana is considered the basketball state. That's where it started, right?
Yes,
That's
it is.
where the Mecca grew and it expanded from there. When your experience at Vincennes, right, was coming to an end, and you recognize, okay, I want to go further. I know I have to go big if I want to go, to the next level with WNBA. When Indiana University came knocking, what is that like for a native Indiana kid to have one of their major state schools reaching out to them?
Man, honestly, it was an awesome experience, and they weren't really the first on my list.
Oh,
I had received offers. I believe one of the first offers were South Carolina Gamecocks. They were actually one on my list. And then I received offers from, I think it was Florida Gators, and Indiana was actually like third on my list.
wow.
In Louisville, I believe. So, but Indiana was the second visit I took. And the coach at the time was really like, hey, we really want you, and she also mentioned that I was an Indiana native, and, people would know my name. I grew up here. And, if I was to go anywhere else, I mean, I would have to really prove myself. And so she really talked a good game. And I'm like, yeah, I want to go to Indiana. I always see IU all over the place. I'm like, that would be a really great fit for me, And so I think just having that conversation with the coach really drove me to want to be a part of the IU women's basketball program.
It was home. That was home for you, right? I
Yes,
could only imagine if some of the top schools at Texas would have recruited me in the same aggressiveness as Indiana did with you. Although my mission, to be honest, was to get out of the state of Texas, explore the world, go be gone, like don't stay here. I don't know, maybe it would have been different, something similar to you, where I'm home, my friends and my family can come see me. I'm just, a couple hours away.
Yeah, so like I think what also played a factor in it was that at Vincennes, I was 3 hours away from home. I was like really young at the time. I wasn't around my parents. They didn't come to a lot of games. And I thought maybe, what if I went to Florida or, South Carolina, they wouldn't be able to come as, much as I would want them to. So I think that also played another factor. I mean, I just wanted my friends and family to come watch me play at IU, at Assembly Hall.
And they showed up, man. I mean, every game they were there.
They were there for the most part for the home games. Yes.
Yes, you always recognize Jasmine's family. Y'all came in packs. It was awesome, right? Because it created an extended family for us foreigners, right? We had our team family, but it was like, oh, Jasmine's family's here. Maybe her mama brought me something or something like that. So neat, so incredibly neat. I think that the JUCO transfer, the transfer experience, I think happens a lot more than student athletes maybe realize, especially at a young age. But it's happening, and it's happening a lot more often and a lot more aggressively than I think a lot of student athletes are maybe ready for.
Right.
Your transfer was for the pursuit of further basketball, right? And so one of the hiccups you had was academics.
Yes.
Athlete thing, and I know I've had this conversation many times. The reality of that for us as 18, 19-year-olds, we are an athlete student. Not only because we believe our athletic ability is more important sometimes, but it's the way we're treated, right? It's our schedule. It's our the chip on our shoulder, right? I have to perform athletically. I have to perform my best athletically. I can perform bare minimum just to get by academically. And I say that as a real life conversation I've had with myself, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So you're transferring from Vincent, Indiana. Wasn't this smooth transfer, was it?
No, not at all. It was just so much going on, you know, at that age, you're just like, man, I just want to play basketball. I mean, I focused on my grades, like you mentioned, you know, it came second to, you know, my desires of playing. And with the assistance of, you know, people trying to, you know, I don't think I had the support I needed in order to like, hey, get this class done, and then you could go to IU. No one told me that. I mean, I was just out there kind of like on my own. So I had to take finite math, I think it was. I failed finite math and didn't think I was going to be able to get into IU. But then they later told me, oh, you didn't need to take finite math. Why don't you just take this calculus class and then you can pass that and go to IU? So I had to take 2 semesters of summer classes. And that was just barely, I think I got a C in the calculus class because I had no tutors, nobody helping me. I was getting calls every day from the coach at IU, and I'm like, oh my God, I have all this stress. I'm getting this class done. I'm trying to make it as much as I can. And honestly, just bringing my faith into the mix, praying every day, and just like, God, can you please help me pass this class? Because I really want to IU. And, you know, it happened for me barely, but
Barely, but you got there.
yeah, made it to IU late August. So yeah.
Speaking of support, we're kind of going from like having really great support to having something like none at all. Remind me, the one of the essences of junior colleges for student athletes in particular is to be very much so a stepping stone into another university, correct? I mean, it's there for other reasons, but what would you say? Okay.
Yeah, for the most part, that's how it is. Just getting acclimated to the college experience, you know, grades, getting those up to par, and then transitioning into a bigger and better school.
Gotcha. So the fact that that's like in their action plan as a JUCO college, get the student ready, acclimated with college, grades up, right? Get them on the track to be successful at a 4-year university. That's like in their treatment, in their plan for student athletes, and they sound like they failed you a little bit, a lot of it. Ready.
I think what it was is that, you know, just looking back, it's just, I don't think anybody had went through that like that to that capacity. I assume. I thought that maybe the school I was transferring to would have a little bit more say in it since I had already signed over and all that great stuff. So I think it was just a miscommunication, or I don't know, it was just a lot. I thought maybe I would have tutors available, you know, for me to pass the finite class that I thought I needed to take. But they were unavailable.
Oh, okay.
Help me. Yeah. And so when calculus came, I still didn't have anyone really solid to kind of, you know, help me like I thought I would. But nevertheless, the transition was rocky, but I made it.
by the skin of your teeth, right?
Yes.
You know, just to wrap that up, I think it'd be interesting to figure out, to know now, right? Because we're so aged out of it. But it would be so interesting to know what JUCO colleges and what the universities are doing to better help that transition. If there's somebody as like a liaison who is that middleman who could communicate, like you said, between what's needed from the university and what JUCO has available.
Right.
I mean, what could be manipulated to structure a successful transition. I'm wondering if JUCOs have done better with that, because you could not have been the only one to have struggled as hard as you did.
Right.
That's a lot. What are you, 18, 19? And you know, you have other things going on that keeping up with that communication, that's not a good balance for you.
Right.
Okay. So pack up your bags, you head, what are we, south? We're central, right? We were central. You head towards Indiana, and you step foot on campus. I happened to already be there, as well as some of your other teammates. When did reality hit you in the face? When were you first like, oh, this is what, y'all didn't tell me about all this. Like, when did that moment happen when you moved to Bloomington?
I believe that moment actually hit when I moved into my apartment with my parents. Actually finally getting everything into the apartment, and my parents said, bye. And I was like, okay, I'm really on campus at IU. My roommate wasn't there at the time, so I didn't know anybody there other than some of the coaches.
Right.
And I was like, okay, so what do I do next? Who do I go to? Like, I was always like, I was a shy individual then. Right. And so I wasn't like always open to talk as much. Mm-hmm. So it hit me when I got there, moved in, and I was like, oh my God, this is really real. I'm really at IU. Let's play ball, you know?
Right. When you came in, Indiana wasn't a top seeded school in our conference. We had struggled the year before, and this upcoming year was very important to not only the coaching staff, but to us as players, because we wanted to change and turn the program around. We were desperate for it. I knew coming in that it would be a lot of work, but I've always thrived in underdog environments. So that's one of the reasons why I chose IU. We had a great senior class, very talented, a lot of bodies in that senior class that just graduated. And so it really fell on the juniors and sophomores of that year. So it was your year and my year that the pressure of winning games was on. A young woman, I'm going to mention her name because she's a beautiful soul. A young woman by the name of Jory Davis was part of that senior class that graduated. And man, was she talented. I mean, she was just solid woman who could not only shoot, but get into the hole. I mean, no one could guard Jory. And if they did, they had a very difficult time doing it. And her game really elevated her senior season. She kind of led us to where we were, and she really carried the team. Outside looking in, I can say, Jazz, that exact expectation of what she had to do was now placed on you. It was on your shoulders. Coming in as a JUCO player, it's coming in as a player who loves the game of basketball, wanted to be a winning team, but wanted to just be a team player, not really leading a team. That was my perspective. I would love to hear that specifically from you.
Right. In various meetings with the coaching staff, that was communicated to me as well. Hey, we have Jory leaving, and we believe that you could be the next Jory Davis. And I'm thinking like, but my name is Jasmine Mcgee. I want to play my game, Yeah. So I think it was just a lot of pressure to kind of live up to the expectation of, Jory Davis, this great basketball player, who, I did, look up her game. I was like, oh yeah, she's really good. But my game is slightly different. I'm not so much of a person that takes it to the hole as much. I mean, I like to shoot. So, I mean, just having that pressure and that weight saying, hey, we would need you to score all the time, like we want you to score all the time. Like, I'm thinking like, we're still a team, I would probably need to pass the ball or like that, but you're being coached. So like you want to do what the coaches say, I don't know anything about D1 basketball. I just know how to play the game. And, I just want to make sure my coaches are happy with my game as well. And just like going through the practices and having that pressure, like Jory did this, why can't you do this? And things of that nature kind of really put me in the mindset, like, do I even want to play here? Like, cause I'm Jasmine Mcgee, like not Jory Davis, and my game is completely different than Jory's. So.
She's y'all, like, get it right. My name is Jasmine. You were gifted a number. They gave you your number.
I believe so.
You came in
with Joy's number. Yeah.
And as soon as that staff left, that was like the first thing I remember you doing. You like ran up to the gear office, whatever it was. And the next thing I knew, you had a brand new number.
I did.
Talk about identity, right? So like,
right.
You know yourself as this shooter player, team player. You know, you're all about performing not only for the pleasure of the coaches, but what does the team need at this moment, right? And then to kind of be thrusted into this box, if you will, this shoe. Hey guys, fit in here, do this. Don't do anything outside of that. And, you know, kind of bursting from that shoe that your second year with us, right? So your senior season, coming into your own. We have a brand new coaching staff. Your identity is shifting in like 4 or 5 different ways. Only with your relationship with basketball, your number, right? The name on the back of your jersey. But then now having to discover, who am I with this new coaching staff? Right. And then just outside of basketball, all the stuff you're going through in life. Who am I as Jasmine Mcgee, a person? Right. Who do I want to study in school? Who do I want to be? Right. That's a loaded question. So let me try to simplify it for us. Where did you struggle the most with defining who Jasmine Mcgee was?
I believe it was in the middle of the season with the former coaching staff. Yeah. I was in the office with the coach. I communicated something to her. I was like, you know, we were at practice. And I got upset and I said, I am not Jory Davis. Yeah. I left practice and she called me to the office and was like, hey, you know, I know you're not Jory Davis, but she did this, this, and this, and this. I will need you to do this, this, and this, and this as well, if you want to take this team further. At this point, I'm just like, I'll do what I can. You know, I feel like we don't have any chemistry as a team because from my perspective, everybody's mad at me. And I'm just trying to be, you know, what the coaches want me to be. And I don't know how else to, you know, if I didn't shoot, I was going to be set on the bench and I didn't want that. I mean, if I passed too much, I mean, I wasn't going to score. And it's just, there was an imbalance in who I was as not only a person, because I didn't feel like I didn't really have any friends as teammates, but as a basketball player, because I didn't want to always be a ball hog per se, or not have that chemistry as a team, or people being mad at me, you know, on the basketball court because I'm shooting too much. So I think I just really struggled in that area of just trying to find out, okay, who am I? Like, I want to make sure like I'm, you know, I want to be friends with my teammates so that the chemistry could be there, but we know that sometimes we're not always friends, but as long as we get on the basketball court and have that chemistry, that's a totally different, you know, aspect. But that chemistry was not there. And so I was just like, you know, maybe it's my fault. It's gotta be my fault, on top of going through injuries as well. So it was just a lot going on. I think I missed the Big Ten tournament that year because I had a stress fracture in my foot. I was just like, you know what? Did Jory have injuries? So I didn't know. I wanted to play like Jory too, because I wanted the coaches to like me, and I wanted them to like, you know, tell me I'm doing a good job instead of being so hard on me. And I just didn't know how to handle the pressure at that age and with, you know, outside experiences as well.
I'm lost of words because who would be able to handle that kind of pressure? My heart breaks for you in hearing this because at the end of the day, all you wanted to do was play basketball and to win games if you could, but to have fun playing basketball. Right. If I can say anything to you right now, I know this is like long overdue because we're no longer doing those things. Yeah. I needed to play with you very much because I was coming off of an ACL tear the summer that you got there. And so I didn't play until that following December. And even when I did play, I wasn't, you know, it takes you a while to come off of a knee injury. I want to say I never viewed you as being a ball hog or a selfish player. If anything, I was sitting on the bench feeling bad because one, I wasn't able to help produce wins with you, like to take some of that pressure off, right? To get those loose balls, to get those rebounds, to give you a great screen so that you can have an open shot, right? Because I was just unable to do that. If anything,
Right.
I felt bad that that was the pressure that was given onto you. When you had that explosion in practice, I was like, well, she's not lying. Like, you know, it wasn't anywhere that I felt that you felt like you were my friend first. You were my teammate first. And I think I hold that as in higher regard than the talent that you possess. I could be friends with the least talented player on the team, but I can also be friends with the highest talent. I mean, it was less about what you were able to produce and more about your character. And I think looking back, although I didn't know all of the struggles that you were going through at the time, I think you handled that beautifully and well, and the best that you could, to be honest.
Well, I appreciate that. I didn't know who I could talk to at the time. Like, hey, what do I do about the pressure? Not that I didn't want the pressure. I think it was just the way it was presented in the package it was given to me. Like, hey, if you molded my game to Jasmine Mcgee and not Jory Davis, maybe you could see the talent that I have like in a different light, not the way that Jory played. And I think just the comparison would really like aggravate me because Joy was a great player. She could shoot, she could do all these things, but I think I was more of like a cut slasher, not always needing the ball in my hands type of deal. And I think she kind of made me into that person. I was like, I don't want the ball all the time. I just want to come off a screen or like, take my shot for a play that's ran for me, and I will get in, slash cut, be open in the open areas because that was just my game. I didn't really need to have the ball all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so.
We can take a deep breath and look back at that moment as like, what a learned experience. Like, what a time.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that just weren't, we talked about this all the time. We were just blind to each other's lives. I didn't know happened with you and your coming at you, that same, you would say the same for me. It's like, we were just so wrapped up in trying to be the best on the court that we just forgot about, life outside of that.
Right.
By the time your senior season rolled around, if let's do the scaling question, if 100% is like, I am full, my cup is full, I'm ready to go, and 1% is like, if y'all don't get me off this court, I'm gonna throw a chair, right? Where were you by the time your senior season rolled around? Where were you as far as the game of basketball?
I was trying to put in some extra work in the summertime with my left hand because, they scouted me, I wasn't really a left-hand driver. So I was trying to do so much work, and then I broke my pinky going into my senior year. That kind of really made me angry because I'm like, dang, I'm doing all this extra work and, I'm trying to get my left hand right and I break my left pinky. And so I was just, I was really kind of down, but we had a new coach and I was excited and I was like, oh, this is going to be, the year that we go somewhere. And it's just like, where are we at? Where are we at?
A new challenge, but the same battle, right? Because even though they weren't asking you to be somebody else, their style was just
totally different.
I don't think I've ever played basketball in that way. And I'm glad I had 2 years because it took that much time to adjust, right? Coming from Texas basketball, coming from, what the first round of coaches were implementing. It was just different. And they were different in how they communicated and how they addressed basketball and the women in the jerseys. Yeah.
I think that was just I hate to say it, but I felt like my senior year was worse than my junior year, to be honest.
That's the reality.
I hate to say it. I just didn't feel like I loved the game anymore. although the pressure was on me in my junior year coming in, I still had a very huge passion for basketball, no matter what the expectations were. Even though our coach at the time was, maybe her coaching style wasn't what I desired, but her passion was there.
Yes.
And I relate to that a lot more than just never doing anything right.
Great.
On the other hand of the new coaching staff. You kind of know what I'm...
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So would you say by that senior season, you were like below the 50% of my little scale that I gave you?
Yes, definitely. My mind just wasn't there. I wasn't really happy. But I was on scholarship, so I had to do what I needed to do, to play. I wanted to play. I still love the game, but it just wasn't there. Like I felt burnt out almost, in a sense.
How did that play a part into pursuing further basketball, whether you went overseas or whether you went into WNBA? How did that energy level that you were bringing to that senior season play a part into that?
I still had, I just couldn't wait for the season to be over so I could go pursue my dreams. However, no one was there to assist me at all for the transition, didn't do anything. None of the people on the coaching staff did anything to help me pursue my career in basketball. Yet, I did receive word that they put a lot of effort into helping another teammate of ours pursue their dreams in basketball as well. And I just felt kind of offended because I was like, okay, I want to pursue basketball too. I don't know how to go about doing this. And yet again, no one else is in my corner to kind of help me transition to playing overseas or, going further.
What is that? Thank you for sharing that part, because doing it again, very gracefully. Because there's a lot of bears that we could poke in this moment, but we're being very gentle with our words. You're not the first person to share that, as far as the lack of, and this is now the second time that you've shared that, where is the person to guide? Because we don't know. Every step of the way is a new step, right? Unless we have a relative in the next, in working for the WNBA, or unless we have somebody very close to us, AAU coach who has very good connections, who could help us. We just Google it. Hey, how do I get into?
Right.
Where is that person? And especially and then where's that conversation? Because I think you and I talked about, they didn't even, there wasn't even like a, hey, Jazz, do you want to go?
Right.
And
there was nothing there.
And my experience was a little bit of the same. I knew my senior season, the junior summer, so going into senior season, I was like, I think I want to do this. And I don't know if you remember Des, she was a manager at the time.
Oh, yeah.
She was there that summer with me, and she's like, let's do it. And so we got into the gym, and, we worked on my shot, and, senior season went as it went. But towards the end, I was like, I still want to do this. I still want to pursue. And it was somebody completely outside of coaching staff that sent me a message, thought of me enough to send me a message to say, hey, Simone, there's this opportunity. Do you have this amount of money? Come on, let's go.
Wow. Yeah.
And I would look at my account and I was like, well, damn, it's like, that's my last pay. That's my last. That's all I got. But it worked out. And I'm like what you were said earlier about the coach from high school. I am extremely grateful for them to think of me enough, to think that I was talented enough to stand in this arena with this like oozing talent of women's basketball players. And then, being able to be picked up to go overseas for a little bit. But unfortunately, not everybody has that, guardian angel in that moment, that really important season. You were coming off your senior season. You were talented out the woozah, like you're just talented out the butt. And the fact that, you didn't have that person. So what did you end up doing?
So I think it was like, let's see, what year are we in? So 2013.
Ages.
2013 where I graduated, I think it was like early 2014 is when someone reached out to me. It was like, hey, there's a combine.
A whole year later.
Basically, yeah. there's a combine, do you want to go? I'm like, yeah, sure, and then I did see my second year coach from IU there at the combine. He was shocked to see me.
Hello.
I was like, oh, hey, I mean, it was just a slight awkward moment because I didn't feel like I mentioned before, that I didn't have that help to get where I wanted to go. And so just having that slightly awkward moment was like, yeah, like I did it without you, type of moment. But yeah, I got to play in the combine, and then after that, I received various offers to play overseas, and then to even go work out. I think it was with the New York Liberty or something like that. But I have to mention them. But I remember just on my faith journey with the Lord, and I remember him telling me like, hey, I don't want you to pursue basketball anymore. I want to take you in a different direction. And so doing all of that was, okay, here's a dream crusher right here. Like, how do I receive this type of information?
Right.
So.
And we must take a couple steps back because of the direction of faith, right? So I know that you and I have talked many times about faith. I've called you on it, but like, girl, I need some help and some support here, please.
Yeah.
But the reality of somebody who comes from a faith background, right? So you were, your father is a pastor and minister. So you were, what are they?
Preacher's kid.
Okay, yes.
Yes.
You're a preacher's kid. And to be honest, I'm not far from that, right? My grandfather, my dad, they both. So we grew up kind of rooted in the church, and our upbringing kind of led from there. When we explored our faith outside of the family, right? Because you do have an identity of God from your family. When you grow up out of that, you start to develop your own relationship, which I think is where the beauty of faith comes in, is, who does God say I am, and how do I develop this beautiful relationship with him?
Of course.
To do that in college at a state university is hard. Difficult, because you do know right from wrong. You do know, like, okay. But you have this beautiful thing called
free will.
We have this beautiful thing called free will, and we can make our own choices in what we choose to do and not to do. And so when you were saying how faith led you to not pursue, I know that's tough, because here you are desiring, like thirsty for this beautiful relationship with Christ, but also thirsty for this this free will, this choice, this, God, I want to do what I want to do, but I know I need to be pursuing what you want me to do. I think I told you there was a time where I gave God 70%, and then I kept 30. And I'm gonna give you this. I'm gonna just give you this part of my life, but I'm gonna just keep this over here for me. I want to do what I want to do.
I think we've all done that. Yeah. I think we've all done that, definitely.
And so I'm not ready to give this up. Would you say basketball for you, pursuing it for you, would you say basketball for you was that 30% that you did not want to give up? And so hearing that message of, hey girl, I need you to hang up your shoes, you was like, come again? Excuse me?
Right.
Okay.
I would say it was more like 50%, to be honest with you.
Okay.
To give you 50%, like, but I, this is my life right here. Like, I don't know if I could let this go. Yeah, Lord, like, I love you. I really love you, God. And at this time, I'm like 23, going on 24 still. I'm just like, I'm still young, I can pursue a relationship when I get 30, or, after basketball, God, I'll give you everything I got, but could you bless me while I play basketball too? But I didn't really realize that, he just wanted more from me other than basketball, because I didn't think I had a life after basketball. I didn't think I was able to do anything else other than just play basketball. Wow. But yes, it was tough. Yes, it was hard. I didn't want to give it up. I really didn't. I'm like, I don't know. No, I'm not going to do it. So I'm constantly trying. Well, it doesn't work out. So now what? What do I do?
I mean, we could drop the mic here and in the conversation, because what you just said is what Postgame is choosing and trying to discover who we are outside of basketball. Because for 14, 15 years of our lives, plus more, you know, we are told that we believe that that's all that we possess. I know you to be multi-talented, right? And I'll let you tell the stories, but you know, you were talented on the court, but you were forever always talented in those other areas. You know, you always just put them on the back burner. They became hobbies for you because you were so passionate about basketball at the time. But what it sounds like you were challenged on doing was not only obeying and being, you know, a steward of the Lord, but also just like recognizing I'm good at something else, you know, and like leaning into that curiosity of what that could be.
Right. I think truly, to be honest, I think the Lord wanted to show me that my identity is not basketball, because for so long, you know, being an athlete student, they were, you know, forcing this identity. You're a basketball player, you're a woman, you know, but really didn't, you know, take into account your student ability, applying yourself in other aspects other than basketball. And so I truly believe in that time in my life, the Lord was just trying to show me like, hey, you know, your identity is not really basketball. I have something better for you. What about all these other things that I've given you to do? Why don't you use those for me as well? And even though that was hard, that was a very, 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 very hard choice. I decided to submit, but not fully commit myself in that time to transition to letting it completely go, because it wasn't easy to just like, hey, there you go. I don't want it no more.
Right, to toss the bag. It's been about 5 to 6 years now. You've lived life without it as the front runner. Can you speak a little bit to that, how it's been and where you are now with that choice?
Honestly, it's the best decision I've ever made in my life, because I believe like basketball put so much pressure, so much weight on me. You know, I was depressed in some of those moments in my life, and I just, you know, I had other life things going on in addition to playing basketball. So, I mean, it was just so heavy of a load to carry, but I didn't realize giving it up in that sense. I mean, some people, you know, go on to pursue, but for my personal life, like this is what God wanted for me. And you know, honestly, it's been the best decision to pursue a better relationship with God and to see him take me places that I never dreamed of. And the freedom of life so much, not putting so much pressure on myself, but to like, you know, play the piano or sing or play the drums or strum the guitar. Just to have that lighthearted worship time with God has just been more of a joy than ever playing basketball, to be honest with you.
More fulfilling.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love that.
It's not an easy journey. It's still not easy. But you know, I oftentimes think of like, man, where would I be if I was playing basketball? Where would I be if I was like really like overseas, or like who would I be? How, you know, what would be my identity? What would be my personality? What type of things would I be involved in, you know? But
I think that comes with the territory, right? Some of the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, like just kind of fantasizing about life had you had made a different choice. And I think all of us in our human experience think those things with anything, right? What would happen if I would have moved out? Or what would happen if I would have stayed with that relationship? You know, all those things kind of do tug at us. And to your point, you know, however, the joy really does come in really developing, and for me and myself, and I think for what you're trying to say as well, is understanding where God where God is leading me towards. And I may not always be able to see it. Honestly, that's probably for the best. Don't show me where I'm going, because if you show me, I'm going to try to manipulate my way out of it. If I can say anything, this platform is one of those things where I have interest in talking to my friends, but to put myself out there like this again, no, thank you. I'd rather just live my little private life here. But it's like deeply instilled in me to share these stories, because very much so because of what you shared. Who is in our corner, the people who supported us or who didn't support us, the things that we might have needed. You know, if I can stop, if I can cease from student athletes to have to experience that for themselves now, if I can bring awareness, if I can bring resources, let me do that. But one of the reasons why I became a therapist was to be who I didn't have at 10, 11, 12, 13.
Right.
Which is an adult to sit down with me and just let me be who I was. And to be able to, in addition to that, be vulnerable with me. So I say all that to say that that has been some of the joy of letting it go. And when I go down the rabbit hole of where my life could have been, I have to like step away from that and say, but look at where I am.
Right. And I think that's the experience that we all go through once we actually take that step to like truly let something go that probably is going to get us down, you know.
Wait, Jess, say that again for the people in the back. When we let it go, right? That's the toughest part. We can't see the benefits of letting that thing go.
Right.
The job, the person, the money, the house, the comfortability, right?
Right. And it's tough. Like I said before, it's tough. Whatever it may be, you know, for basketball. That was the toughest decision I think I ever had to make in my entire life. But to know, for me, my personal relationship with God and my faith with him, like that was just more fulfilling. And he continues to fulfill me. I literally have no desire to go be a WNBA player anymore. And sometimes I'm like, how did I even like desire that so much, you know? But I've become this person full of joy now. Like I have my days, but like nothing satisfied me more than doing what I do now. And that's just like being able to have time with my friends and family, you know, enjoying that space, going to church, being a worship leader, things of that nature, working, you know, who wants to work? But great job, you know, I have a great job. And just to be able to have those moments that I can really grab a hold onto and keep and possess, I think that is what truly needed to take place in my life. If I never let basketball go, I would probably be overseas alone somewhere. Like, you know, that's just my thoughts. Maybe not.
Sure.
Hey, it was the best decision I think I made. So.
A part of what it sounds like, a part of shifting your identity, taking the jersey off, you were able to find what does Jasmine truly value? And I think that's where identity might be rooted in, is values.
Right. Absolutely.
So you value family. I mean, we know so because they showed up to every game. They were there for you. You value friendships. You value like deeper understanding and growth within those friendships.
Right.
So like to your point, if you're overseas, I mean, yeah, you could probably learn a language and make some new friends, but you know, right. You understand that's not necessarily a true value of yourself.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of my last questions and one of my most favorite questions to ask is for you to share what it could be. What would you give to Jasmine Mcgee, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, you know, young Jazz. If you could go back in time and like show up, knock on her door and either give her something physically or sit down with her and share something with her, words of wisdom, what would that be?
Man, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
What would that be? Man, I would tell her that it's okay to talk to people about what you're going through. I mean, I think that was what I really needed in those moments of my life. not that I didn't have family to talk to, but you know how you are as a young adult growing up, like, oh, this is just so private to me. I can't tell anybody. But once I did express some of those things I was going through, I felt so much better. Like at 24, 25, 26, 27, you know, I was just like, dang, why didn't I share this with anyone before? I could have like been past all of this depression and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
I would definitely tell her like, hey, talk to someone. It's okay. Like, get it out. You have support. You just don't know yet. You do have support. You just gotta talk about it, you know?
I love that. And that's so hard. It's so hard to do. I know one particular instance, if I can share this. You lived in the basement at the time, and I was up on the third floor. And I remember coming down, knocking on your door, like, hey, Jazz, you got a moment? And I remember you were either on your guitar or you had your keyboard, and you were like, yeah, what's up, Mom? And I remember telling you and sharing something very vulnerable that was happening in my life at the time. And you listened. You listened intently. You asked questions. You were curious. And I don't know what possessed me to come to you directly. And it could have been like our relationship and our connection with faith. And I can give that, you know, as like a divine appointment for sure. But something about who you were for me at the time led me to share that with you. And you never made me feel less than. You didn't shame me or target me as a bad person for what I was sharing with you. And I will always treasure that. And I thank you. I'm going to stop it. I'm going to treasure that moment for you. And I think that's what leads me into being who I want to be for other people, is because I know what it's like to feel supported. Mm-hmm. As much as I know what it's like to not know what support is, I have pockets of that. I know what that's like. And so you were definitely one of those pockets. And so I'm so glad that you're in a space now where you feel a little bit more open to sharing, because you know the benefits of opening up. But to my other point before of like, when you felt like you were a bad teammate and people hated you, that was the furthest thing. I looked up to you, if anything. And I appreciate you being there for me in that moment. So that's my little tidbit. So I want to say thank you for that.
Well, I can say I barely remember that moment, but I'm glad that I was able to, you know, be there for you in that time. And that's awesome. That's awesome. You've impacted my life as well. And this is why we're here, right?
Honestly, I haven't, what was it, like 3 or 4 years I hadn't spoken to you. And all of a sudden I get this DM on my Facebook page, like, hey, Simone, it's me, Jazz. Do you remember me? Girl, do I remember you? Are you kidding me? You were a pivotal part of my life, child. Like you make me me. You have made me me. You're part of that.
You know how sometimes, you know, years
I don't. Mm-mm.
Okay, well, maybe your memory is great, but my memory is terrible. So it's not as bad as when I start talking about it, then I start remembering.
Right.
If I don't talk about it, then it's just like, did that even happen? You know, but.
Jasmine Mcgee, I don't know when the last time you heard this, but I must say it in this moment that I am so incredibly proud of you. Like just the person I have grown to know you in that season, and then to get to know you now, because that's what it is. I'm learning a whole new version of Jasmine Mcgee, already having a preconceived understanding of who she was, right? I am so incredibly proud of you for choosing the things that you have chosen, and for being vulnerable with me in this moment, in this time, because I can't see what's going to happen, but I only know and pray that you sharing this part of your journey is going to bless many, many others. And so you being ready for that, you know, I'm proud of you for opening up and sharing.
You definitely pulled it out of me.
It took me a minute. We got here.
But nevertheless, I am to even be able to sit here in this moment at this age with the experiences that I've gone through, and to be able to express that and just share those moments, and hopefully it'll bless someone else. You know, that's my hope. but I'm just happy. I'm happy you reached out to me.
Yeah. So. At the end of the day, this was for us.
Absolutely.
Connect. Yeah. Oh, Jazz. Well, thank you. Okay, we'll stop recording.